The culture of lies is swiftly replacing the integrity and respect that Kenyans deserve.
Across Kenya, the air is thick with the anxiety, frustration, and growing disillusionment with the government that many feel has failed them. The powerful and authoritative voices of the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, KCCB, have once again raised in unison, casting a spotlight on the political and social challenges that are undermining the well-being of millions.
We, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, feel compelled to voice our grave concerns regarding the troubling political climate that has gripped our country. We have made clear statements many times in the recent past with very little response from the government. Despite the calmness we are experiencing, there is a lot of anxiety, and most people are losing trust in the government. Consequently, we raise these important observations and concerns that should be addressed. The first, political wrangles. The political wrangles in the government have generated unwanted tensions and deepened divisions among our people. Further, it has created an environment of mistrust among the citizens and within the government itself. Number two, corruption and politics of self-interest. The elected leaders have been mandated to fulfill roles conferred to them by the Constitution. They are among the highest paid legislators in the world. We are troubled by their heightened insensitivity and irresponsibility in carrying out their tasks, allowing themselves to be captured and compromised in corrupt deals.
This is a story that speaks to the heart of every Kenyan citizen, a story of government failure, systemic corruption, human rights abuses, and growing culture of dishonesty that threatens to tear apart the fabric of the nation. As citizens continue to grapple with the effects of political and economic instability, coalition of religious leaders led by the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops has issued a powerful and damning statement. The bishops have expressed grave concerns about the troubling political climate that has enveloped the nation. For months, they have repeatedly called on the government to address key issues affecting the lives of ordinary Kenyans, but their pleas have largely gone unanswered.
Corruption may not always involve financial benefits, but the unjust use of position and authority or abuse of office. The massive greed we are witnessing is shocking and heartbreaking. The violation of human rights and freedom of speech. We are appalled by the blatant recurring incidents of reported abductions, disappearances, torture, and killings of Kenyans. We also decry the increasing murder of women. This has caused great consternation, anger, and disgust. Many families are still grappling with the loss of their children who are brutally killed, injured, or went missing following what is referred to as the Gen Z demonstrations in June 2024. Many of these victims had raised concerns about rampant corruption within and outside the government. Who is abducting these people? And is the government unable to stop these abductions and killings? The government must protect the life of every human person in Kenya, as stipulated in our Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, Article 26. The government must take the lead in following the law, which the leadership took an oath to uphold and defend at all times.
However, they have lamented that the political tensions in Kenya have only deepened, creating a climate of mistrust not only among the citizens but within the government itself. In a country where peaceful coexistence is crucial, the bishop's message is clear: urgent action is needed to avert a national crisis.
Culture of lies, NHIF, unkept promises and misplaced priorities.
Barabara, mimi nilisimama hapa nikawaambia hiyo barabara contractor tulikuwa na yeye alikuwa mzembe.
Promise after promise. President William RUTO is back with promises. Only last week when he visited Nakuru County, President RUTO promised a return of the Kazi Mtaani, a flagship project of his predecessor Uhuru Kenyatta.
Tharaka Nithi County tuko na projects 5 ya mambo ya maji, na nimekuja kuanzisha awamu ya kwanza milioni 180 kule mahali kule Tharaka Nithi chini, tuhakikisha kwamba maji inapatikana Chuka Igamba Ng'ombe, maji inapatikana Chogoria, maji inapatikana Kadhuana, maji inapatikana Marimanti, kwa sababu tunataka tuhakikisha kwamba dunia yenu inasonga mbele. Niliahidi wavuvi hapa ya kwamba nitarudi, na kesho nimekuja na milioni 800 ya wavuvi wa hapa pwani.
During the unveiling of the fish projects, the head of state promised yet again to tackle corruption.
Mambo ya ufisadi, tunabadilisha sheria ili kesi zote za ufisadi isiwe inachukua miaka 10, ichukue miezi 6. Wale wameibia serikali ya Kenya na wananchi wa Kenya waweze kupelekwa kotini na waweze kufanyiwa yale yatafanyiwa kotini in 6 months, so that we can deal with the challenge of corruption and integrity in the Republic of Kenya.
The culture of lies is swiftly replacing the integrity and respect that Kenyans deserve. Basically, it seems that truth does not exist, and if it does, it's only what the government says. Unfortunately, it seems that the Kenyans have helplessly tolerated the lies told to them constantly by politicians. Kenyans must learn not to applaud or validate the lies that the politicians tell them, but rather must resolve to seek and be led by the truth.
Hapa Meru tayari tumejenga kilomita 500 ya lami, hata ingawaje kuna zingine ziko na matatizo madogo madogo. Mimi nataka niwaambie tutazitatua. Kama hii barabara yenu hapa lazima tuitatue, ndio tuweze kuwajengea, ndio dunia hiyo iweze kukaa sawa sawa.
When the government fails to fulfill its promises, particularly concerning payments to essential service providers, it harms vulnerable communities. This is the case with NHIF. The neglect of faith-based organizations, hospitals, now owed billions in dues, is an issue we have addressed constantly, even with the president. We recall the pertinent and resolved issues we have raised recently with the government over taxation of Kenyans, the hiking of the missionary work permits, youth unemployment, regulations of the education system, especially the CBC and university loan scheme, the failure to constitute the IEBC, etc. We believe that genuine consultation of all concerned stakeholders in all these matters is necessary beyond the casual public participation. This culture of lies, unkept promises, and misplaced priorities is unacceptable and needs to be dealt with.
At the core of Bishop's message lies a troubling reality, the political rankling that has plagued the government for months. These internal divisions have not only stalled critical decision-making but have also deepened societal rifts, turning once friendly communities into hostile functions. The political highlights failure to prioritize the needs of the people over personal ambition has caused widespread frustration. The bishops decry this fracturing of national unity, pointing to the growing resentment towards politicians who appear more interested in consolidating power than in serving the people who elected them.
Selfish agenda to extend the term of elected leaders. It is baffling that a bill proposing an extension of the 5-year term to 7 years is being considered, and apparently there are plans to rush it through the legislative system. A two-term limit of 10 years, as given by the current constitution, is ample time for any visionary political leader to leave a strong legacy if they perform. We need to critically scrutinize this political move. We question the motivation behind this agenda and the long-term interests it serves. We strongly condemn this retrogressive and manipulative thinking. Let us not create problems where there are none.
In response, several other prominent Christian leaders, including Pentecostal bishops, pastors, and apostles, have also voiced their criticism of the government. They have condemned the ongoing power struggles and corruption that continue to undermine the nation's prosperity and stability.
Unajua, hii serikali iliingia katika utawala kwa maombi, na Mungu ndiye hakimu wa serikali hii, na kwa sababu wametumia kipimo cha kuhukumu, sasa wameweka kipimo cha kuhukumiwa, na utaona hukumu ya Mungu kwa sababu wamejiwekea kipimo wenyewe. Judgment will be set upon them with the same measure they have used. The same measure will be used upon them. Praise the name of the living.
Because all the way till now, I have always been thinking that this government is a government of God. Because it's the one we voted for. To our embarrassment.
Lakini kwa aibu yetu,
it's a government of fight.
serikali ya vita.
In the name of
kwa sababu tumewaambia wa kuheshimu, they can only fear you. Watakuogopa. Na ni vizuri kujuaga wakati watu wamekuogopa na wakati watu wamekuheshimu. Kiongozi asipojua hivyo, wakati watu wamemheshimu na wakati ambapo wamemuogopa.
Mtu mmoja anaitwa alikuwa anaulizwa maswali mahali, nimuona kwa TV. Akiuliza swali Kimushira anafanya alikuwa tunataka video. Nikasema huyu amekuja kutuaibisha hapa. Anaambiwa answer question. Anaanza kufanya mduka. Wagabi walimuona.
This is not about RUTO. This is not about KTK and whoever. It is about powers of the most darkest places. And this is not a local battle, it is an international battle. It is only they have chosen Kenya to be the ground.
These chorus of voices spanning across various denominations highlights a growing sentiment that the government must be held accountable for its actions. Corruption remains one of the most pressing issues that the bishops have raised in their statement. Kenya has long struggled with the corruption, but under the current administration, the bishops say the situation has reached a crisis point. Despite the high salaries of elected leaders, many of whom are among the highest paid in the world, there is a widespread culture of greed, negligence, and blatant disregard for the law. Bishops make it clear that corruption is not just a financial issue, it is a question of leadership. Leaders have allowed themselves to be compromised, engaging in corrupt practices that harm the very people they are meant to serve. Whether it is the misuse of office, the abuse of power, or the manipulation of resources for personal gain, the bishops argue that the government must stop turning a blind eye to corruption and start holding those responsible accountable.
We have matters of national concern, such as the crumbling CBC education system, health care services, reconstitution of the IEBC, a huge block of educated but unemployed youth, and fighting the monster of corruption, among others, that are surely top priorities. Overtaxing Kenyans. We all know that the government raises its revenue primarily through taxes. Our problem is that Kenyans are being unreasonably overtaxed by the continued myriad of new tax regimes that are constantly emerging from day to day. It seems to be a hidden way of reintroducing the rejected Finance Bill 2024. We must listen keenly to the cry of the Kenyan people. The current tax regime is already prohibitive and burdensome. As Catholic bishops, we have many times reminded the government of the need to put to good use all the collected revenue and live within its means.
The bishops' call is particularly urgent given the mounting public outrage over the recent scandals. Corruption, they say, is not just an economic issue, it is a matter of human dignity and justice. And it is evident that unless these entrenched corrupt practices are rooted out, the dreams of prosperous, equitable Kenya will remain out of reach for millions of ordinary citizens.
Conclusion. We thank God for holding our country together despite the political and social upheavals. We pray that our leaders, guided by the values of justice, mercy, humility, selflessness, and honesty, provide good leadership and governance to our nation in accordance with God's will. What does the Lord God require of us and our leadership? As the prophet Micah says, I quote, "You have been told, O mortal man, what is good, and what the Lord requires of you, only to do justice, and to love goodness, and to walk humbly with your God." End of quotation from Micah chapter 6, verse 8. We invite all Kenyans and all people of faith to prayer, especially when we see that the tentacles of evil seem to be seizing our nation. We also invite our fellow Catholics, as we prepare for the Jubilee year of 2025, to pray for our country as pilgrims of hope. We are called to walk together, always keeping our gaze at the risen Christ with hope.
The bishops have also voiced their alarm over the rising number of abductions, disappearances, torture, and killings that have been reported across the country in recent months. Particularly disturbing are the increasing murders of women, which have shocked the nation. families continue to mourn the loss of their loved ones, many of whom were victims of violence and human rights violations in the wake of the Gen Z demonstration in June 2024.
Most Reverend Martin Kivuva Msonde, Archbishop of Mombasa, Most Reverend Philip Anyolo,
What is most transparent, the bishops are assert, is the government's failure to address these crimes effectively. Who is behind these abductions, and why has the government been unable or unwilling to prevent such incidents? The bishops ask these pointed questions, urging the authorities to act decisively in order to protect the lives of all citizens, as stipulated in Kenya's constitution. With a heavy heart, the bishops express their horror at the state of human rights in Kenya today. Abductions, extrajudicial killings are not only violation of individuals' rights but also erode public trust in the state's ability to protect its people. This growing climate of fear is something that the bishops, alongside other religious leaders, strongly condemn. In addition to the issues of corruption and human rights violations, the bishops have raised concerns about the growing culture of lies and dishonesty within the government. Political leaders continue to make promises that they fail to fulfill, and these unkept promises have only fueled public frustration. Whether it's the failure to address the vital healthcare issues, the unsustainable taxation policies, or the unfulfilled promises to youth, the government's inability to deliver on its pledges has left Kenyans feeling hopeless and betrayed. The bishops specifically addressed the issue of the National Hospital Insurance Fund, NHIF, and the mounting debts owed to faith-based hospitals. They also criticized the government's failure to manage public finances effectively, warning that the people of Kenya are being unfairly burdened with excessive taxes without seeing corresponding improvements in services or infrastructure. In conclusion, the bishops thank God for holding the country together despite the turbulence and the political upheaval. They urge all Kenyans to come together in prayer to seek divine guidance for the nation's leaders and to trust that through faith and unity, the country will overcome its challenges. The bishops' call for peace, justice, and unity resonates beyond the walls of the church. It is a cry for every Kenyan who believes in the promise of better tomorrow, a tomorrow built on trust, justice, and love for one another. As the political landscape in Kenya continues to evolve, it is clear that the voices of religious leaders, including Pentecostal bishops, pastors, apostles, and Catholic leaders, will play a critical role in holding the government accountable and advocating for the needs of the people. With millions watching, one thing is certain: Kenyans are not willing to sit quietly as their country slips deeper into crisis. Together, they are calling for change, demanding government that serves the people, upholds the law, and delivers on its promises. It is time for Kenyans leaders to listen. This is Stephen, GCNews.